As we all know, next month is a Democratic National Convention in Chicago. We now have a new presidential candidate with Joe Biden dropping out of the race. Now we have Kamala Harris, and we have two issues. Biden was the first issue, being old, being incompetent. Now you have Kamala Harris, who may not have all the support that we believe that she should have, although Obama endorsed her late. We also have a big problem with this situation. The migrant crisis. Rewind! This has been a topic of conversation, not only on this channel, but many channels on YouTube. I focus on the African American community, and that is also another point of discussion because the Democratic Party is losing interest, or the voters have lost interest in the party in itself. And one of the things that must be discussed is the migrant crisis. And this isn't the first time that we've seen people storm into the city of Chicago's council meetings talking about the issue. There is a lady by the name of P-Rae Easley who used to be a staunch Democratic supporter, but she's one of the people supporting Chicago Red. And Chicago Red is an organization supporting what I believe is the conservative movement and Donald Trump. This is the first time I saw her.
To the city of Chicago. I am P-Rae of the 37th Ward. Chicago Red is our organization. Because we started this session with a prayer, I want to start my comment with a scripture. 1 Timothy 5:8 says, "But if any provide not for his own, and specifically for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel." So I want to talk to y'all today about not going to hell. In the 37th Ward, there was a family, the Jones family. P-Rae Jones was standing in her family building that they've owned for 40 years doing a TikTok dance with her mother. A bullet came through the window, hit her in the neck. She fell to the ground in front of her mother and bled to death. A month ago, on the Chicago mugshot page, her mother was on that page. Her mother had on her daughter's Rest in Peace t-shirt. She washed it so many times that it was completely faded out. She was completely high, out of her mind, and the charge was possession. Now, the first $51 million that this council gave to the migrants came from the opioid settlement funds. I am here on behalf of the Jones family, on behalf of the 37th Ward, on behalf of Black Chicago, on behalf of the entire city, to ask you all to vote no and put that money back in the opioid settlement fund. We need that money in my neighborhood. We need that on my block. That woman should not be at Cook County Jail because she's grieving over a random act of violence that caused her to lose her child in front of her face, when the city of Chicago has millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to give to people who ain't paid a dime into the tax base. We've been in my building for 52 years. We're about to pay some more taxes. The Jones family has been in their building for 45 years, paying taxes every year on time. So I'm asking y'all to use our tax money for our people. We need it. We got people leaning, we got people rocking, we got overdosing, we got pass out lines. You live on the west side, Mayor Johnson, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We need the money for us. We need opioid treatment on the west side of Chicago. We are the headquarters of the cartel, and everybody in here knows it. They selling more drugs than the law can allow, and y'all giving money back to them because they traffic those people up here, so we paying them going and coming. Absolutely not. We pay too much. It costs too much money to live in this city. Help Wanda Jones. Help every other grieving mother who feels like she has to go get high to get over the loss of her child. This is a woman who lived in that house. She still sleeps in that living room where her daughter passed out and bled to death.
And now she's back on Fox News. But what she's going to discuss is deplorable.
Sanctuary cities across the country are reportedly rolling back migrant shelter programs after spending millions on illegal immigrants. One of those cities, Chicago, where migrants under city care has dropped 61%, and there are 11 fewer shelter locations. So is the city finally realizing how unsustainable this all is? Chicago resident and Trump surrogate P-Rae Easley has been on this from the start, and she joins us now. P-Rae, if they're not in the shelters, where are they going?
They're going to homes where Americans used to live. The housing subsidy that the illegals have is higher than market rent and higher than federal housing subsidies. And so what the landlords are doing is they're not renewing the leases of Americans, and they're putting the illegals there. So our people are going into the shelters and they're going into the homes.
I want people to take in these numbers for a second. So 42,000 plus migrants have come to, or illegal aliens have come to Chicago since August 2022. Over $400 million spent. I mean, P-Rae, that's money going to people who shouldn't be in this country, not the citizens of Chicago.
Correct. It's absolutely disrespectful. We don't understand how people could have this type of privilege when they've paid absolutely nothing into the tax base of the city of Chicago.
So you heard that. Chicago has spent over $400 million in 24 months. Now, immigrants are coming into the home. Americans, or in this case, black voters, African Americans, are going into the shelters. What's also interesting is, as Ms. P-Rae Easley said, that these immigrants have not contributed anything into the tax base. Let me give you a scenario. I live in Kampala, Uganda, as most of you already know. I have been coming to this great country for 6 years, now 7 years, and I live here as an expat. Imagine what people would feel if I were able to come to this country, use the tax money from Ugandans, and live for free while Ugandans go to the streets and we go into some nice hotels the government has for us, like Sky's Hotel or Latitude Zero. How would Ugandans feel about that? Oh, I tell you how they feel about that. I wouldn't be living, most likely. See, people have sense in other places. There is no way they're gonna let a foreigner come and take their resources from them while they, the people, are out on the streets. It does not make sense. And then think about this. The presidential candidate, if he allowed such a thing, which he won't, but let's say he did, would want you to continue to vote for him blindly after demoting you for somebody else. This is the case. Now I want to get back to the shelter situation. P-Rae Easley is also going to talk about something that Brandon Johnson wants to do.
The mayor has stated that he's going to let the women and children remain in the shelters, and so that means that the men are going to be put out. So if they are unable to acquire permanent housing, now we have over 1,000 or over 1,000 men on the street, no jobs, no resources, which means that now we are the sitting targets because they're going to eat any way that they can.
So did you hear that? The women can stay in the shelters. The men must go out on the streets. Now, let's talk about what's been going on all across America. These migrants have come into America with no background check. It's very possible that they could have been criminals, some of them, in their respective homelands. We don't know if they have psychological problems. We don't know if they understand the culture of dealing with women in America. We don't know. Assuming they're allowed to come to America, what can be the result? Well, let's check this out.
See?
Sylvia and Terrence, a judge has denied pretrial release for that man as prosecutors argued he's already attacked 2 women and they do not want to allow room for him to victimize any others. Take a look. Elvis Jesus Hernandez Pernalete, who also goes by Luis Guevara, has been charged with criminal abuse, aggravated battery, and robbery and attempted robbery. According to UIC police, around 8 p.m. on March 16th, the Venezuelan migrant followed a woman from the UIC Halstead Blue Line station near Harrison and Morgan Streets, then physically and sexually assaulted her and stole her belongings.
That's right. You see that? This is an example of, unfortunately, something happening to a lady, an innocent lady. A migrant was responsible. Now, Chicago is already riddled with crime as it is, especially on the west side and the south side. Add into this equation All of these situations with migrants, add into that crime, possibly, add into that more poverty. The West Side and the South Side, already, these are African-American destinations, lack money, lack resources. You've already given the migrants this money, and then they're gonna go ahead and do more destruction, possibly, some of them. It endangers the women, in this case, black women, who live primarily on the West Side and South Side, and also other Americans, because they'll be spread out across the city. You see, this doesn't make any sense. Why am I working to pay taxes to be replaced and to be harmed by immigrants who don't contribute? And then those immigrants might turn around and disrespect you, talk trash to you, and say all kinds of things to you. This is another reason why a lot of people need to look at not voting for the Democrats. If you don't want to vote for Donald Trump, that is okay. But please, I beg you, do not vote for them. If you're black. If you're somebody else, it's okay. Do what you want to do. But if you're black, I beg you not to vote for them. They are going to replace us. And we see it with no black wealth. We see it with no resources. We see it with no opportunities. The black community has been asking the Democratic Party for this since Bill Clinton came into office. In 1992, this is what we asked. I was 11 years old. I remember it. The black community wanted resources, job training programs. What do we get? More jails under Clinton. The crime bill with Biden under Clinton. And what do we have now as a result? Coming out of the crack epidemic, we have not even gotten out of that. There was a good documentary on how the crack epidemic destroyed my neighborhood, Del Paso Heights, where I come from. My father, who moved from Compton in the crack epidemic, got back on crack in Del Paso Heights. Ruined our family, destroyed our family. I struggled severely throughout my adolescent childhood and teenage years as a result of that. And Democratic policies didn't help at all. Now we're still struggling from that, and then you throw the migrant crisis when we're still suffering from the crack cocaine epidemic? I think not, family. We need to, as somebody that was affected by that, and many of you were too, how can we take this also? We need those things we asked in 1992. Job training programs. We need resources. We don't need more jails. We need to stop the bleeding with this. I urge you, do not vote for Kamala Harris. You're going to get more of this problem. So guys, what do you think? It's your boy O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of King Gonda. Fair use, I'm out.